Are there any guests concerning County Railroad Commission business at this time? Hearing none, we'll move on.
Next item, new business, real estate. For consideration, recommendation to the Board of Commissioners to approve the agreement for the purchase and sale between the County of Carbon and Reading, Blue Mountain, and Northern Railroad concerning sale of county right title and interest in and to the rail line, right-of-way, trackage, and related property as described in the agreement for purchase and sale.
Move to consider.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Forgay,
Absolutely, yes.
Mr. Arner,
Yes.
Mr. Lukasevich.
Yes.
Mr. Notstein.
Yes. Can I do that now? New business?
So I'll go ahead and make a motion for approval. Agreement for the purchase and sale between the County of Carbon and Reading, Blue Mountain, and Northern Railroad concerning sale of county right title and interest in and to the rail line right-of-way, trackage, and related property as described in the agreement for purchase and sale as recommended by the Carbon County Railroad Commission. Second.
Mr. Arner,
Yes.
Mr. Lukasevich,
Yes.
Mr. Notstein.
Yes.
All right. One more.
One more yet.
Move to authorize execution of agreement of purchase and sale between the County of Carbon and Reading, Blue Mountain, and Northern Railroad, as well as the quick claim deed, lease termination agreement, and such other documents as may be required to complete the transaction set out in the purchase and sale agreement.
Mr. Arner.
Yeah.
Mr. Lukasevich.
Yes.
Mr. Notstein.
Yes. After how many years, Andy, have we been talking about this? A long time, and it took
This was
a.
2005 when I got the lease.
But yes, it has been a very long time. I'll say at this time, then Rocky started to point out some of the issues, and one of the things, it's a huge liability to the county. And not only that, right now our insurance runs out on the High Bridge on June 1st. So congratulations. But yeah, and that it's been difficult to get through our insurance carrier to even get it approved for 1 year. So that's another reason. And the liability, and not only that, the land under the railroad tracks is not insured. So we have many liabilities. The county never made a dime off the railroad other than, in a parking lot and that, but everything that we received from the trackage rights and rental from the railroad was always put back into the railroad or some maintenance and things of that nature. We have never put anything back into the county coffers. Everything, all the revenues that we have received, because Lansford was a depressed area at the time, and that's why we have a representative from the borough of Lansford on the board, is they were the actual applicants with the county to acquire the railroad back in, I forget what year it was offhand, but 71, somewhere, a long time ago.
81.
81.
81.
Uh,
It'll be 40 years in September.
40 years. So that's why Mr. Forgay here is on the board. He's only been on 1.5 years, but his father has been on since day one and became very good friends with Mr. Muller here. And they've recently had lunch together. But so the borough has always received 25% of those proceeds, which wasn't a whole lot, but every little bit helps in the borough of Lansford. And in the sales agreement, well, not the cash, the borough will also receive $25,000 or 25%. Sorry, I don't cut you short there, a few bucks. Yeah, well, correct. I figured I'd be corrected on that one. Didn't take long. But yeah, so it's been a long time coming, and there's been reasons that, counties, like Rocky said, should not be in the railroad business, and the liability in particular. In this agreement, we do retain the parking lot and the train station. I know that was a huge concern of the public in particular. And I want to thank Andy for working with us on that, and the survey we did, just started this how many years ago. We walked the property, what we'd like to retain, and in this agreement, and I'll let Andy talk about what some of the other in-kind services that we were looking at doing, or what Mr. Mueller is looking to do with the railroad. So, Mr. Mueller.
Okay. Well, let me say thank you very much. Like you're right, it's been a long time coming. And I just want to say that some people love New York, but I love Jim Thorpe. And I've been coming up here with my wife since 1983, when another gentleman, if you remember, George Hart, ran the first steam engine up here. And we've been coming up here 3, 4, 5 times a year, staying overnight, bike riding, everything. This place, it's an amazing place, and you people are very lucky. And so the railroad's very fortunate to be part of this, because the railroad can only succeed if the local economy succeeds, and it can only carry people if people come to visit. You know, we've learned over the years that 90% of people will not ride a long distance or ride a train, but if people come to visit an area where there's many, many things to do, 90% of those people will ride. And so we're very excited about that. And I guess I could talk about a few of the things that we're going to do, if you'd like me to do that. Sure. You know, we've sort of been patching this railroad for quite a few years. This piece of track lays right in the center of both properties that the Reading and Northern owns. And so, you know, we have daily freight trains that run over this railroad. And when the county bought it, as was true with many, many of the lines, the rail was 100 years old. You have rail here that's more than 100 years old. It was in very, very bad disrepair, and we have just gradually been just updating it and getting the speed up. It was 5 miles an hour when I first took over the lease. The speed is now 25. We're going to get that up probably to 40. But this summer alone, we're putting in 70,000 feet of new rail. I don't know if you want me to talk about the numbers. I mean, that's in the agreement, really. I don't know if you want me to say anything, but you know, we've committed to spend $1.7 million on the property in the first year, and we will be able to take the commissioners out hopefully by Christmas, and we'll show them that we're going to put between $4 and $5 million into this railroad. The problem that was developing is, I didn't want to get into a fight with the county, but the county sooner or later had to. They're the owners. You know, any of you can imagine you putting money into something that you don't own. Even if you have a lease, it's very difficult mentally to do that, you know. So, you know, we let the county know that this railroad seriously needs about $11 million over the next 3 to 4 years. And we're committed to spending that. So you're going to have a first-class main line coming through Carbon County, and then it'll be up to the local people from Carbon County and the railroad to work together to try to get some industrial development. I mean, like I say, the good thing the county has something that everybody else wants, and that's tourism, right? We've already seen our ridership this year double from 2019 when we ran, the last time we ran at this time. And it's just going to be amazing what Jim Thorpe is going to achieve in the future. I mean, I see it coming. We have to solve the parking problem. I mean, that's, you know, we get ones on TripAdvisor because of parking. And it drags my rating from 4.5, you know, but I can't do much about that. But I'd like to really work together to do something there with the borough, with that. You know, I'm going to make a major investment in the town here. We're going to do a lot of things around the station. You're going to see a lot happening. And like I say, we're just thrilled now that we own the railroad. We can put all this money into it. And as a matter of fact, I just bought a new train set of beautiful 1920 passenger cars, heavyweight passenger cars out of a bankruptcy in Colorado. And we're hoping to establish, people might not want to hear this, but trains, weekend trains from Wilkes-Barre into Jim Thorpe, if I can get more help, because we have a whole market to bring another, who knows how many people in the town. And the nice thing is when they come by train, you don't have a parking problem, you know. But, you know, I'm also looking further. Hopefully we all stay healthy and we can work on this, because we really need to have off-site parking now and a trolley type, you know, maybe Packard Yard, whatever we can talk about. Because I think in the past, the county, somewhat legitimately, some not legitimately, worried about the railroad bringing people and then people wouldn't come into town to park. Well, we don't have to worry about that anymore. That parking lot's gonna be full. Anytime, it's always full. So anything that we bring into town now should benefit everybody without hurting the county income. So, I mean, I've got a lot of exciting things I want to do. I love trains. I love railroading. This is what I love to do. And so this partnership with the county, I think, will just be a lot better because I'll be able to do just a lot more stuff now. Know that I own it. You know, it just makes a big difference. So it's been an embarrassment out there in front of the station, you know, because the passenger wasn't making enough profit to do much about it over the years. And the county really didn't want to make those kind of investments in something they weren't getting a great return for. But that's all changed now because, and the main reason it's changed is because Jim Thorpe is becoming so successful. It's drawing the amount of people now that we can make a profit and we can pour that back into the passenger. So.
Any comments?
Yes, and good morning. And I'm going to start with the bottom line up front, the bluff that I like to do, but then I'm going to wax somewhat nostalgically for a couple minutes also, because there is some background here. And this is not a day to be humble, but rather proud of what we accomplished collaborating. So governments can't efficiently or effectively run railroads. And the county railroad was both a financial and an insurance liability to Carbon County, and importantly, the taxpayers, and was increasingly so. We are selling, as mentioned, for $4.7 million, which exceeds the amount. Now, that is cash in kind, that exceeds the amount of a disputed, I would say, appraisal. And I actually agree with the railroad on the challenge of the methodology that we saw. But nonetheless, there is a fair price for this. Governments shouldn't be owning, operating, or controlling or directing that which private companies can do better. These forms of government intervention tend to produce inefficiency, subsidies, cronyism, corruption, and waste. And we've moved away from that possibility with what has occurred today. But I want to go back a little bit. Ronnie, I will tell you this morning, as us, Miss Ronnie Sheehan, the treasurer, who was my backdoor neighbor, and we grew up together. I thought of your grandfather, your father, Jack Sheehan, on the railroad, and of course, my grandfather from Summit Hill, my grandfather, McLaughlin. Also want to mention two Jim Thorpe residents who were actually more important than anyone will ever recognize in this endeavor. That was a former retired railroad employee, Al Ludke, right? And also Bill Solomon, who works for the railroad today. So, back in 2017, 2018, through a right to know, I reviewed the contract lease between the railroad and county, and subsequently the financials, a lease that went through 2038. This research was really based on my principal belief about private industry doing things better. And I don't think, we can look at Amtrak, who since 1971 has never turned a profit. They almost made it in 2020, right? If it wouldn't have been
that was innovative bookkeeping too.
Okay, no doubt, creative bookkeeping there. But again, imagine 50 years without a profit. What private industry would do that? Actually, none. The county can't afford to maintain, as Andy spoke to, and Wayne also, we can't afford to maintain that like a landlord really should. And again, we're passing that challenge, and I know they'll rise to the challenge to the Reading and Northern. It was clear to me that divesting the 19-mile-plus railroad made sense. And this was even before considering the fact of the liabilities, which again, think about, we had an unfortunate incident in Nesquehoning in February 2020 on county railroad property. We owned up until today the High Bridge, another significant liability to the county. The High Bridge, which is beautiful, 185 foot long span, 157 feet above the Little Schuylkill River. Well, in 2019, and this would have been late summer, thanks to Al Ludke, I was then a private citizen, but also the Republican nominee for commissioner. I met with Wayne, Matt, and Dan Gilchrist up at Port Clinton at the headquarters. And I have a map that Wayne was drawing on at the time, showing me, to include with this presentation, the vision of the railroad and what it could achieve if it had appropriate ownership of something that should have been in private hands. And that inspired me even further to ensure that I would do all that I could, if elected, to see this through at the benefit to both the citizens of Carbon County and the railroad. And I think today we're there. So I give my heartfelt thanks to the railroad for that time in late summer, and also, of course, to Al Lutke. I want to talk a little bit about what's transpiring. $4.7 million. $2 million in cash, 25% going to Lansford. Then over a period of 8 consecutive years, $125,000, 25% going to Lansford. In addition, Rocky mentioned $700,000 in pedestrian crossings coming right off the D&L from the pedestrian bridge, and then the normal crossing that we have as you enter the parking lot. Minimum of $1 million, and we know it's going to far exceed that investment in upgrading the railroad to the benefit of all of us in Carbon County and beyond. Now, the county took in anywhere between $60,000 and $65,000 of revenue, 2% from freight plus some easement annually. And as Commissioner Notsi mentioned, that was reinvested back in to the railroad. I will tell you, if you look at future value of money, so take what the county is going to receive today, right, which is really $151.5 million, then $97.5 thousand for each year. Invest that at our current market rate. For example, our retirement fund is 6.5%. So on average, every year, we could be getting about $97,000 in interest alone. $60,000 that we're currently getting to $97. That's without doing anything except some wise investments here. So there is a financial gain. We're retaining Josiah White Park, the parking lot, the railroad station, right? Critical elements of the county, of our tourism industry. And we know that Andy and the railroad will continue to leverage those assets to further help the county move to the next level. There's a great opportunity for Lansford. This money has to be used for economic development. And nowhere in Carbon County is economic development more needed than the Lansford area. And it is my hope that they'll take that money, use it wisely, see how to further expand the incredible location they have up there, for example, the number 9 mine. And someday I would love to see the railroad running from Port Clinton to Tamaqua down to the number 9 mine, perhaps through the Hotto Tunnel, right, Rich? You know, we see great opportunities there. And I want to again thank Andy and his team for all the collaboration and really the congenial kind of work that has taken place over the last year and a half or so to bring this reality. So thank you all. That's all I have.
One thing I did,
May I say something?
sure,
I'm surrounded by county-owned railroads. And I'll tell you what, Chris Lucas Harris for president. You know,
I'm very happy right
I'm
here.
serious. I'm serious.
Yeah.
This
Hey, we're not
country-
allowed to talk politics in here.
No,
Andy.
I'm serious. When you see what's going on in Washington, this country needs more people with that attitude. Because if you go, you take a look, for those of you that would have some interest in the railroad, you look at our main line, our equipment, everything we do, then go to Lackawanna County, go to Luzerne County, go out to Cedarcog, where these counties own the railroads. Our revenues are 20 times what their revenues are in some cases. And they had more revenue than I did when I started. And when you mentioned the insider trading and all that, and I just want to tell you, we years ago, I went to those meetings trying not to buy those properties, but to get them sold to a real railroad, right? You have no idea how refreshing this is to me to hear that. And I thank you.
one of the things